And it's a very warm welcome to the Global Business Podcast today to Tory Archbold. Tory, how are you?
I'm really well, and thank you for having me on your show, Mark. You are the first man who's interviewed me on a podcast, so I'm so excited.
And the first one from a sailing vessel at sea as well, I am assuming.
Yes, you're assuming correctly, and I love that about you because you said that that was what you were going to do and you made it happen.
There we are. Well, that's what it's all about in life, isn't it? If we don't make it happen, then why are we rehearsing for what, huh? Right? That's what we're going to talk about.
100%.
So, first of all, let's tell everybody whereabouts in the world are you talking to us from today?
I am from Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia. And how's things in Sydney today with COVID-19 and everything that's going on in this crazy world?
Well, the crazy world is crazy, Mark, let's face it. However, I am really enjoying working from home and I've definitely managed to embrace technology and it hasn't stopped me with my business because, now we're living in a virtual world. It doesn't matter where we are, whether it's rain, hail or shine, we have the ability to connect with others and that's what I'm loving about this period.
Absolutely. We're going to get into a lot of that today. And I was excited to come across you because there's a lot of things there that excite me. Near-death experiences, global thinker. And I thought, wow, great. This is a person that I'm going to really enjoy talking to. Now, before we get into the depths of the show, I'd like you to take up an opportunity that I offer my guests. And that is, I'd like you to dedicate your show to someone special in your life. So who would you like to dedicate this show to today?
Absolutely, my daughter Bella. She is a ray of sunshine, and through her experiences, she has truly stepped into her true power and potential. And she's just a blessing in my life. She brings joy not only to me, but to millions of other people out there as well. That anything that you see as a challenge can become a possibility. And for that, I love you, my Bell. This show's for you.
What a wonderful dedication. That's lovely to hear a mother talk of a daughter like that. Now, you were just telling me off air that you two are going to start your own podcast next week. Is that right?
Well, I'm actually starting a podcast, and it is about extraordinary women, powerful stories. And we have to do a trial run. And I said to my daughter, because she's going through that process of what do you want to be in life? And of course, she's like, I want to be a global entrepreneur. I want to work in media. And I know we'll get into the discussion around how the media landscapes change. But I said to her, what a great opportunity. You can learn how to interview people and vice versa. So before you graduate, you've already got that skill set. So she is definitely my dry run in podcasting, Mark.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to put all the details in the show notes today so people can find you and they're going to be able to watch that. I'm going to be tuning in for number one. I'll be number one listener tuning in to find out how that goes because I'm sure Bella's going to ask Mum some interesting questions during that show. That's for sure, yeah?
Wise, yeah.
Now, why don't we continue on by telling everyone around the world that's tuning in today what you actually do for a living?
Okay, so for the past 20 years, I've run a global brand communications company called Torstar, which I started with my values of passion, integrity, and delivery. And despite the fact that it was a communications company, I started out with zero media contacts. So I built this business into a super attractor, which connected me with all the top performing brands around the world. So across fashion, beauty, lifestyle, celebrity, and influencers. So worked with a lot of C-suite people, entrepreneurs, just game-changing moments. And then I decided a year ago that I was ready to start another business. And so just recently I started my second business amongst the whole craziness of COVID called Powerful Steps. And now I'm working with entrepreneurs all around the world to help them either set up their business, create and build a brand, or propel their personal brand forward. And I'm absolutely loving it. I feel like I've found my true passion and I've stepped into what I'm meant to be doing.
I was going to ask you about Torstar in terms of, was that your kind of dream job? Or was it the thing you wanted to do when you were at school?
You know what? I always just wanted to work with things that brands and people that I was really passionate about, Mark. And so, I was passionate about people, brands, places, traveling the world. And really, we talked about manifestation and intent and purpose. And that really was my intent and purpose. And so when I built that brand into the global identity that it was, and I attracted all of these power players around the world, it was really based on that passion
Mm.
of, that I could make a difference to these brands. And, I never got a degree. I learned on the job, but I always listened to my gut intuition.
Mm.
And I wasn't afraid to lead and disrupt. If I knew that a message wasn't right, or if I knew that something was going, out of alignment, I'd always put my hand up and I'd always say to these brands, hey, we need to change course. We need to track in this direction rather than the direction that you think you're going in. And that's really how my reputation was built. And through that, I had a team of 22. I had 10 freelancers. I'm traveling around the world. I'm launching Australian brands overseas, but most importantly, all those big global brands that you see in Australian retail today, the majority of them, I had a hand in playing where they landed. And that was incredibly exciting time in my life. But after 2 decades, I felt, you know what, I'm at the top of my game. I love what I do, but I feel that I've got something else to give to the universe. And so I decided to wrap that up and start again, be fearless.
Fairly unique. A lot of people don't stop at the top of their game. They go on maybe perhaps a little bit too long and they start going down the other side. So what was there an
Yeah.
epiphany or a certain moment that came along where you said, right, I've got to go and do something else, or I want to go and do something else?
I just had this niggling gut instinct for the 2 years before I really made that decision that there was something else in me. And I had to create the space to understand what that next journey was going to be. And once I created the space and I was really clear on the intent and purpose, it was a matter of just gently closing the doors with Torstar and winding the business back so that, I could take a break and propel forward into the next journey. But, my gut instinct again this time is that Powerful Steps will be, even bigger and better than what Torstar was, because those learnings that I had in the last 20 years working with all of these incredible people and brands has made me who I am today. And so now I'm able to share that gift with others and show them how they too can, step into that journey and become who they're meant to be.
Yeah, beautiful. Powerful steps. Inspire, courage,
Yeah.
and empower, right? So why those three words? Why did you pick inspire, encourage, and empower?
Encourage and empower. Yeah, very good question. So inspire, I've always had people reach out to me and say, how did you do that? So I remember when we first launched Zara into Australia, and it was a game-changing moment in retail. It was the first really big global brand that came into our high street, and it made its mark. We had 22,000 people walk through the doors on the first day. They had $1 million in sales. I mean, it literally, the streets were in lockdown to get in there. And, that was an inspiration for so many brands, but it was also such a humbling experience because the team from Interdex, it was all about the people and it was all about the journey. And I remember one of the directors in there, he said to me, Tori, you watch. Everyone is going to be so inspired by what we're creating together that one by one, every major brand around the world is going to knock on your door and they're going to want you to do the same thing for them. Now, that had already started happening in my career, but he was, what he said, it was like bang on. We inspired people about how to actually launch a business into Australia. And, soon after then, I was working with all these incredible brands, and I will always thank the Zara team for that gift. And so that for me, when you look at inspiration and what I managed to attract into my life and my career, I thought, you know what, that's a benchmark for others. And so inspiration was, I have that credibility, I have that history, I have that background. So surely that is an inspiring thing for people to look at and go, well, maybe my business can be like that, or maybe my brand can be like that.
Mm.
And then the second one, encouragement, because you know what, and especially during COVID, and I'm sure people when you're interviewing them now, they say the same thing. They might start off on a call and they're like, oh, I'm just not sure I can do this. Like I had a chat with one of my clients in Boston, Massachusetts this morning, and she's supposed to go live on air, and she goes, Tori, I've just got to cancel it. And I said, you're not going to cancel it. I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? You
Yeah,
learn from the experience.
exactly.
I'm like, let's just get up and go. So it's that encouragement piece and that belief that people are capable of doing anything. And then the last one is empowering them, empowering them to really tap into what their true potential is. And once you understand what your value piece is and you understand that you have the capabilities to take those steps forward, you can achieve anything.
Mm.
And so inspire, encourage, empower is really like, okay, what's the aspiration? What are the steps we're going to do to get there? And of course, along the way, you're going to think you can't do it, because when you get at that 75% mark, when you're about to hit the end of the tunnel, which I'm sure you've been through as well, you're like, oh God, come on, when's it going to happen?
Mm.
That's actually the best part, because that's when people, brands, businesses, entrepreneurs, they pivot and they get through that tunnel and extraordinary things happen.
Yeah.
And so that's what Powerful Steps is all about. It's like, giving people that toolkit to believe in their capabilities, believe that they can do it, and believe that they can make a true difference to the world, because we all have a unique gift inside of us. It's just tapping into and understanding what that is.
Mm. So 20 years ago when you started off, and you mentioned at the earlier part of the show that you basically had no contacts and you went into this pretty green, so to speak. So looking back now, what were some of the most important things you did in the very beginning to get yourself established?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you something a little funny. I also had no money, so I was eating air. So when we were talking about the COVID kilos, I was thinking maybe I need to eat air again now. But look, I trusted my gut instinct. And, I literally did. I started with no money, no media contacts, but I had a hell of a lot of self-belief. And, for me, it was about those three values that I spoke about. It's like passion. If I was passionate about the brands that I wanted to represent, they would be equally passionate, right? So it's that law of attraction. The second one was integrity. I just didn't want to work with assholes. I didn't want to work with brands that weren't aligned with their values. So integrity was just an incredible value set for me that I didn't want to deviate from. And the last one was delivery, because when you start a business with no money, no contacts, but a bucket load of self-belief, you got to deliver, girlfriend, because if you don't deliver, they're not going to refer you on to the next, piece of the pie. So for me, once I had aligned with my values and, I felt that that was a great way to launch a business, I set about building my reputation and connecting with people. And I've always done the same thing for the past 20 years. I've always connected with people over coffee. So now it's a virtual coffee, but back then it was in person, and sometimes, it was an espresso martini, in the wee hours of the morning. But every week I commit to connecting with three different people. So someone will be in my tribe, someone will be, someone will be a partnership that I really believe that I can bring something to the table with, and vice versa. And the third one is someone outside of my comfort zone. So chatting to you today is outside of my comfort zone. We've never met before, but you got to make this shit happen. So that's the way it works, right?
Yeah.
And so from there, because I consistently did it, I built this global network of connections. And so, it allowed me to build a business, because I was able to work with passion, work with integrity, but most importantly, I delivered. Now, if you work with those three value sets, and you deliver, of course, people are going to refer you to other people. Of course, they're going to hear about you. And you've got this electrifying super attractor aura about you.
Yep.
And that's where the magic happens. So that's how I attracted and built, a business with the world's top performing brands, celebrities, and influencers.
So one of the many things I'm interested to come back to in what you've just shared is there is passion and there's passion. People think that they are passionate about something, and then there's people like you who jump off the screen with you with passion. Do you think that people have to have that level of passion to succeed, or do you think it can be bottled up in different ways?
It can be bottled up in different ways. And look, people are extroverts or they're introverts. It just depends on, the way that they're built. But, it's passion is all about connection. So you should never be in a job or running a business just for the money. Okay? You're out of alignment, you're out of whack. You should always do something because you're passionate about it. And if you're in your career and you've lost that passion, you need to then relook at that value set, realign with it, and make sure that you are on the pathway to success. You do have that connection. And if you don't, be brave enough to start again so that you can ignite that passion.
That's so important. I think that, it's said so many times that the thing that you're so passionate about that you can turn into a job is not actually a job. It's a passion, and you can do it every day without even thinking about it. And you can do 20 hours a day if you have to, 7 days a week if you have to.
Yeah.
And it just goes with the flow, doesn't it? It's not something that you have to push yourself to. I think that's really important. Something else I want to come back to that you've mentioned already in the conversation is global experience. And I'm a guy that's lived and worked around the world all my life in over 160 countries, and I contribute a lot of my experience to what I've experienced in the global workplace, dealing with businesses of all sizes around the world, different cultures and all the rest of it. Now that I'm currently in Australia for a little while, I'm finding that there's still a narrow-minded focus here of business leaders who haven't had global experience or don't see the global potential in their products and their brands. Would you agree with me on that?
100%, 100%, and that's always been the way. And look, with Torstar, it's interesting because 80% of my clients were global.
Yep.
So, like you, I had that ability to walk into a boardroom, no matter where I was in the world, or it could have been like a WeWork space where there's $100 million business running, and they're like, come into our office at WeWork in Soho, and it's a little box. But it's $100 million company because, people are aligned, they're passionate, they're making it happen. So it doesn't matter what the business is, it matters about the culture, and it matters about that passion. It matters about how that they're empowering other people on that customer journey. And look, I've worked with a lot of Australian entrepreneurs, the founders of Seafolly and Sue Kin, and, I was lucky enough to take their brands global through the brand communication strategies that I'd put in place for them. And, eventually they were sold into bigger businesses, but they had that vision, they had that willingness to, if someone called and there was an opportunity and it was in Singapore or Paris or Milan or New York or whatever, they hopped on the plane and they made it happen. Now that's what I do as well. If someone speaks to me and I'm like, let's make it happen, I'm not afraid just to get on a phone call, have a Zoom, or hop on a plane, which we can't do at the moment. But, just think bigger, and also understand that different cultures around the world, they operate differently. They operate differently. And when you're willing to open your mindset up to new opportunities and new beginnings, that's where the magic happens in your business, because you can see the possibilities ahead of you.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it also comes down to the different attributes that leaders of businesses have. It takes a different mindset to work with different cultures. The 90 million population in Vietnam, they buy things differently. They use their products in a different way than what Australians do. And sometimes that can be a bit of a fear factor for people of stepping outside their comfort zone and actually overcoming the cultural barriers that at the end of the day, they don't exist really. People are people, right? And people are businesses. So,
but you've also got to believe in yourself. I remember one of the, businesses that I worked for many, many years ago. It was a big global TV network. And they'd flown me into Hong Kong, and there was an American VP at the end of the table, and there were 10 people from Southeast Asia, right? Very, very different culture. And they had all been reporting to him, and I'd finished my presentation, and there was silence in the room. And I thought, oh gosh, what's going to happen here? And I was like, Tory, just like listen and just see, don't push it. They were all waiting for him to give his opinion.
Right.
And then they all started nodding, and I realized that was the culture, right? Now that was many, many years ago. And now when I go and I present in Singapore, Hong Kong, etc., that culture's changed, it's shifted. They're not afraid to have an opinion.
Yep.
But back then, if it was a US-based company or London-based company and they were working in those markets, there was definitely, a cultural shift that you needed to understand to be able to operate and be successful in those markets. So definitely it's like listening, learning, evolving, growing, but also understanding when to speak up and not.
Yeah, well articulated. Now let's go back. I want to take you back in time. They say time travel's not possible, but I'm going to take you back in time. January 2020, we're going to talk about everything before COVID-19 came along. So what was the vision you had for this year? What was the plans in terms of your business? How were you going to go about things before COVID came along?
Yeah, so basically, I'd wound down Torstar and I was launching into Powerful Steps. I actually took 8 weeks off and went skiing with my family. It was the best. I got married in November. I was like, I'm having a break, and then I'm going to propel myself into this business. So February was an amazing month for me. I'm doing, corporate speaking gigs. I'm being flown around Australia to inspire teams. And then, of course, COVID hit. And, my sales funnel and where I thought my business was going, it went from hero to zero.
Right.
Okay. Now, this is a woman that's used to working with global brands, hopping on a plane. I've given up my identity of Torstar and who I am. And I've said I'm Powerful Steps. And it's like, right, what's going on? But actually, I got given a blessing mark because my mum got stuck on the Costa Victoria
Right.
off the coast of Italy in the pandemic when Italy was the number one infected country around the world.
Hmm.
And instead of focusing on what was going wrong and how I was going to resolve my business and where it was going to pivot to, she, get this SOS call, help, get us off this ship. And so what happened was it was a game-changing moment for me because, obviously I have these great media contacts and I thought, okay, well, who can I call to actually alert the Australian government to get these people back? And so I'm doing all these TV interviews and then we got Alan Jones behind the campaign and we got all these Australians um, back to Australia very, very quickly. And people were like, how did you do that? Now, for me, I thought, should I put this on LinkedIn? Should I put it on social media that this is what's happening? And something inside of me thought other people need to hear what's going on in the world. Now, that was the best decision I ever made because people saw me in a different light, right?
Right. Right.
Because I was transforming from Torstar into Powerful Steps, but I'd only really had 4 weeks to prove who Powerful Steps was.
Yeah.
And like I said, I went from hero to zero because everyone had to cancel everything because we're in isolation. So what that experience was that it taught me was that I was able to lead through a crisis, which I already knew, but what I was showing people was how I could lead in a different way, with empathy, with that hustle, with that making things happen for others. And so after that had happened, I really sat back and I thought, what does the world need right now? And the world was really needing to understand how to stay connected with others. So within 24 hours, I put another post up on LinkedIn and I said, I'm going to open up my little black book and I'm going to host a Zoom call. If you'd like to come along and share a coffee with me, I'm going to have a guest every week and I'm just going to allow everyone this forum to stay connected. Best thing I did, because what happened was I quickly built a community, and by building a community I built a reputation, and I gave generously without expecting anything in return. And so first of all I started using my Australian contacts, and then I thought the Americans now are suffering as well because COVID was going into America. And so I had a game-changing moment where I did an IGTV live with one of my girlfriends out of LA, and within 24 hours I've got all these US-based clients, right? I picked up 6 clients. I'm mentoring these entrepreneurial women all around America. And I thought, okay, Tory, this is how you're going to pivot your business. So now I'm mentoring people all around the world, like New Zealand, Tokyo, London, obviously all around America and Australia. And so my business transformed overnight. So I thought, okay, I've got a gift to give in that aspect. But now I thought my message when I launched is old news. So now I'm completely rebranding, relaunching. I know exactly what the world needs to see, and my business is stronger than ever.
Yeah.
So I went from hero to zero, zero to hero, within a 6-month period. But it was because I sat back and I listened. And I listened to what the world wanted, and I didn't force myself on anyone.
Yeah.
I was authentic, I was vulnerable, but I showed the gift that I could give others.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great segue to take one business into another. One of the many things you mentioned there I'd like to come back to was the personal way that you dealt with COVID-19 coming on, because it doesn't matter whether we run large or small businesses, we're impacted personally by the way that we interpret the things that are going on in the world. How did you personally deal with the news of COVID-19 coming down? When did you start to see that it was really going to have a massive impact on business?
Well, when you listen to what's going on in the online world, you can see the impact. And my husband works in corporate as well. So, I was seeing that people were suffering, but also because I was listening to the conversations and I was picking up the phones and I was asking people in different industries what was going on, I was able to segue really quickly. And, I was in a unique position where all my business overheads, because I decided to shut Torstar, had gone. So really for me, I'd set myself up at home. I wasn't sure whether I was going to get an office space. So for me, that transition was really clear. And I'm loving working from home.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would go back into an office. I mean, you're working from a boat. I mean, the thing is, we can all do things differently. But the other key learning for me was I was never really tech savvy. I've become so tech savvy. I love technology. I've embraced it. I've learned it. I've hired people to teach me. And so what's happened is I've got this incredible work-life balance, yet my business is growing.
Mm,
So most people say when their business is growing, they don't have time to do things that matter the most to them
mm,
outside of business.
mm.
But I think that COVID and isolation has given me the gift to really understand the joys of technology, the joys of life, but also where I see my business going on a global scale.
So, what are the greatest things you've learnt by coming from Torstar into Powerful Steps? What are some of the things you reflect back on and say, okay, these were the biggest learnings that I had over those 20 years to bring into my new business?
Yeah, it's all about the people. It's all about the people, and it's also about the back end of your business,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So you've got a really, really strong foundation and you understand your values, but also you've set up a strong foundation with your business model. You will definitely succeed. So, with Torstar, I never had a business plan. I went with my gut instinct. With Powerful Steps, I attempted a business plan, but really it was my gut instinct. So, one of the key learnings for me in the last 20 years is be agile. To be a leader and an entrepreneur, you need to be agile
mm.
and you need to not be stuck in your ways. So, that would be my second key learning. And the third one is be fearless. What are people going to say? No, who cares? Move on to the next opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
So, there's always something that's meant for you, and there's always something that's meant for others. And if you learn to work in flow, you'll always be in alignment with where your business is meant to go.
So, in saying that, what are a couple of key attributes that you think business leaders going through the crisis today should actually adopt if they haven't got them already?
Relook at your value set
Mm,
100% and
mm,
be in alignment with it.
mm-hmm,
And the other thing that I would highly recommend is don't put on that, everything's amazing and great out there. No one wants to hear that because it's not.
mm,
People want to hear if you've had a tough day,
mm.
what did that look like for you? How did you turn that challenge into possibility? Show people true leadership, show them the ways, because the more information you can share as a leader, the more people are going to come on your customer journey and want to be a part of what you have to offer.
I'll give you one now, a little bit of an antidote of a challenge I had yesterday. I
Tell
lost
me.
I lost my I lost my Wi-Fi signal at just a couple of minutes before I started a show with someone in the UK. So up the mast it went. My phone went to the top of my mast, 17 meters above the deck of my boat, and I got a perfect Wi-Fi signal, and the challenge was overcome.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And did you do the podcast from the top of the mast?
No, no, and I'm not going to do one either, and that I can categorically say for you.
I
So,
love that.
talking about pivoting and changing for different moments, we're obviously in difficult times, and there's a lot of people that'll be listening to the show today who are not as pumped and excited and positive as you and I are, and about opportunities. So, what a couple of tips you send out to those people that are struggling today in their business and finding things rather difficult?
Are we talking about people that are in a job or in an entrepreneurial position?
Let's go for both because we have both listening
Yeah.
to the show.
Okay, so I'm speaking to a lot of corporates who are struggling. They don't know whether they're going to be made redundant. They've had 10, 20, 30% pay cuts. They're not getting bonuses. And what I say to them is look at your options because that business is looking at their options. And if you've got that inkling that you may not have a job, the first thing that you need to do is be visible. And while we're working in a virtual world, being visible is making sure that your personal brand is a standout, right? So really look at your LinkedIn, look at your profile, look at what your superpower is and start telling people. But most importantly, start engaging people with not only your success stories, but the success story of the business that you're in. Become a valuable commodity, right?
Mm,
So if the business can see that you value them, they're going to value you. So
mm.
maybe your head's not on the cutting board as much because all of a sudden you step forward and you're visible, right? The second thing I'd say to those corporate people is look at your network. Start speaking to other people. What's going on in the community and the environment, and what other opportunities are there? Always have a backup plan, because in this market, they're either going to keep you or sweep you, right? So get your personal brand right. Make sure that it's a standout. Start connecting. Show your value to the business, but behind the scenes, start communicating with your network and see what your options are. So that would be from corporate, and that's what I'm teaching people as to how to hold their power base. And after those conversations, they're like, oh, Tori, I didn't realize I could do that. Well,
Mm.
of course you can. You're your own person. You can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
All you got to do is switch your thinking. So that's for corporates. But for business owners and entrepreneurs, gosh, you know what? I know if I was still in Torstar, like my business would have been in turmoil for many reasons because people aren't shopping as much as what they were. The
Mm.
world's in crisis. They don't have as much disposable income. So for me, I dodged a bullet, right?
Mm.
And now obviously I don't have the overheads that I had with staff and office expenses, etc. But from a business entrepreneur perspective, I just be looking at cut down what you don't need.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and the best advice I can do is rather than have someone on your payroll, hire the best people in a freelance capacity because those people that you hire in a freelance capacity are actually going to bring you fresh ideas. They're going to bring you motivation. They're going to inspire you and encourage you that there's another way of doing business. And one of the things that I've really loved during COVID is I've met so many incredible people that I've been able to hire on a project basis. And guess what? They're helping me get a higher vibration. They're helping me transform my business into a global business and at the level that I want because they're bringing new ideas to the table.
Yeah.
So just keep going back and looking at what you've got, look at what you could have, and open your mindset to really use those connections with other people because I really feel that that power of connection piece is going to get a lot of business entrepreneurs out the other side because new ideas are everything. You've got to be agile. You've got to move with the times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add to that. I think, in terms of let's be real about this as well, there's a lot of people out there who weren't happy in their jobs anyway, and maybe it wasn't their passion in life. Now's a great time to find that passion, to skill yourself in that passion,
Yeah.
and to ignite the future, right? Because let's face it, if you having a little bit more time than usual at home thinking about life, then it's a good time to think about what it is you truly want to do as
I
far as a
love
job
that.
goes. Yeah.
And you know what, Mark, you and I saw a line because I did a blog post on that in LinkedIn. It's just been picked up by a whole lot of news outlets. And the third tip that I gave about how to stand out in a virtual world was a great tip that I got from a Buddhist monk many years ago from Gandhi: be the change you wish to see in the world. If you're not happy, change it. But show others that you can become fearless because this is an opportunity for all of us to step into our true power and potential because what COVID's given us is the time and the space to reset.
Mm.
It's an
Mm.
opportunity, it's not a challenge.
Mm. So
It's how you do it.
is being a podcast guest a good idea for a brand?
100%. 100%. People need to hear how you can turn challenges into possibilities. And if you're a CEO or a business leader or a marketing person or something and you have a voice, share it.
Mm.
People want to hear what's going on in the world. And also, the media industry is in turmoil. And they also say that most of the B2B content that's being distributed in the world now is through LinkedIn. I mean, you guys found me through LinkedIn. If 50% of the content that businesses are putting out there is on LinkedIn, well, then you as a business entrepreneur or corporate player, you've got to be on there and you've got to have that profile and you're going to stand out and you've got to engage with others and remain visible.
Yeah, I've been saying for the last year that LinkedIn is the secret weapon to success at the moment because there's so many amazing opportunities on there. And I think that people are starting to learn how to use LinkedIn in a better way as well, which is, I think, for good for all businesses. What's your favourite business book you've ever read that you haven't written yourself?
Oh, I love that question. I've read so many books. I have so many books over there, but do you know what? I don't think anything is a standout for me because I always just take little golden nuggets from everything. But what I have really been enjoying out there is the content that's across LinkedIn and Instagram by game changing people. And it might just be like a little quote here and there that just triggers a thought that then adds to another thought that I go, gosh, that's amazing.
Mm.
You know,
Mm. Mm.
but there's not one standout. Like I do love Brene Brown. I think she's amazing.
Yep.
But I also love Marie Forleo. I love Oprah. Obviously, I'm, focusing on women entrepreneurs, but there's also a great guy, I think he's based out of Miami, called Grant Cardone. Do you know
Mm.
him?
Mm-hmm. I do. Yep.
He's a game changer as well. I love what him and his wife are doing. I saw Tony Robbins last year. I thought what he was doing was amazing. Look, there's just, you pick different things up all around the world, but what it is like you're listening, you're learning, you're evolving. Another emerging person to come out with some strong messages is a guy called Michael Lane.
Mm-hmm.
You can also follow on LinkedIn. He's an Australian entrepreneur, but he's also, he's linked in with all of these great big game changing men and entrepreneurs all over the world, and he's sharing their voice.
Right.
So I just, I don't have one person that I live and die by. I have many people that contribute to who I am and shape who I am.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm going to recommend a book for you today, and it's
Oh,
one
good.
that I read a couple of decades ago, and it's stuck with me ever since, and the man's still amazing. The book is called Maverick by Ricardo Semler. He's an amazing entrepreneur from Brazil. He did something with his father's company that was about to go bankrupt that's still legendary in the entrepreneur space around the world. And because you're an authentic soul, you will really love to read about the business model that he set up for his business around the world and made it very, very successful. So
Thank you. Is that on ebooks as
yeah,
well?
you'll be able to get on ebook. So anybody out there listening today, a business book recommendation is Maverick by Ricardo Semler from Brazil. The man's now a lecturer at Harvard University, but before that, he did some incredible things to set up a business that has a lot of things based on values and integrity that we've been talking to Tory about today. Now, Tory, you're a go-getting lady and you've got your finger on the pulse of everything. What do you do to chill out?
Oh my gosh, I meditate.
You meditate. Fantastic. Do you do that
I
daily?
love it. I just like, that's just my happy place. And also, I haven't told anyone else this, I love reflexology. So if I have had a day where I just want to shift the energy, like to have reflexology and someone just use all that pressure points on the balls of your feet, it's just such a great release. Like, I highly recommend it.
Okay, I love
I've
people
never told
touching.
anyone that, Mark, so don't put it out there that I've got a foot fetish.
I got a world exclusive there, folks, from Tory today on people touching her feet. So, look, I
Well,
don't.
I'm laughing about that because a journalist from Queensland the other day, she interviewed me and she said to me, Tori, I sent her through this picture. I said, please just cut out my foot. And she said, no problem. But Tori, you know that they're doing memes around the world about people's feet. And I said, oh my God, that's so funny.
Good one. Well, I'll tell you a little secret I do because I have the fortunate position of living on a boat. Is I often sit on the back of the boat with my feet in the salt water and let the little fishes come along and eat the skin off my beautiful feet. I must say I've got beautiful feet, but yeah, that's a delight that I get into. Now, the media landscape, you mentioned halfway through the show that we're going to see a whole new world and it's evolving
100%.
in front of us. So tell us some thoughts, some visions that you have around how the media world's going to look going forward.
Well, yeah, it's a very interesting question. I worked in media for over 2 decades. So even if you look at the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the AFR, here in Australia, I mean, a lot of those top journalists, they're not full time anymore. They're part time. And then there's a lot of junior journalists out there that don't actually understand how to tell a story. Now, this started happening a few years ago. I noticed that, 26, 27-year-olds who really didn't understand the corporate world were then, given this role to interview someone who might have 40 years experience as a CEO and tell a story. And what I was starting to notice was that they didn't have the history or the understanding. They didn't understand how to research. And so I think, and as much as Donald Trump is out there with that, I hate the media, he does have a very, very valid point. We need more experienced journalists to really be able to tell those strategic stories, but be authentic about the way that they're doing that. So, it's a shame there are so many people being retrenched all around the world, but also when you look at platforms like LinkedIn or your own blog post or, even what you're doing with a podcast, that now is the form of media.
Mm.
So as brands transform and they move forward, their voice and their tribe is what is actually going to deliver the content. And I do think that, we've got all the Netflix, the Stands, etc. around the world. They're going to become the voice as well with documentaries on businesses. So it's not necessarily that when you're a brand that you want to pitch to all of these, big business communities, because you may not trust what the outcome's going to be because you're not actually speaking to a skilled journalist, which is a great shame because there's so many great storytellers out there that actually research stories properly, but they're being let go just
Yeah,
because, the media thinks it's too expensive to keep them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I just think, what a shame, because the world needs more authentic content. The
Yeah.
world needs to know what's going on. And instead, people are getting their information, from Twitter or Instagram or even Snapchat.
Mm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Despite what you might think of the man, and you mentioned his name, the President of the United States of America, he was probably one of the first global leaders to really bypass the mainstream media and put his messaging out there, and look at the following that he has and what he's been able to achieve. And that, again, whether you like the guy or not, it's irrespective. The fact that he's strategized to use that form of communication to go directly to his audience
He
and
did.
and create that audience is
Yeah. But I'll tell you a fun fact. I've actually met Donald Trump,
mm,
and I've been in his office in Trump Towers.
right.
When Maya was my client and Jennifer Hawkins was the face of Maya, and we flew to New York, and she just won Miss Universe so many years ago. He knew the power of the media
Yeah.
all the way along, and for him, you know what? I actually take my hat off and say respect, because he called bullshit on bullshit. But what has happened with that is it has also destroyed people's confidence in the media. And so, when all these people are being retrenched and the younger people coming in, I totally agree that, and as I've said, they're not telling the stories right. But what is the source of powerful content that has truth and authenticity to it? And that's a big question for the whole world, and maybe for your future guests as well, because I don't know one platform out there that's actually operating like that.
Yeah, I think we're in an exciting phase though, and I believe that everything in the universe goes in cycles, and we're seeing a cycle of cleansing at the moment. I think the whole planet, whether it be the human species on the planet or the environment itself, and you can put politicians and global leaders and everything into that bucket. I think we're going to see ourselves come out with a new world based on authenticity. We just need to go through this little bit of, in the sailing terms, we're going through a bit of a storm at the moment. And when we come out the other side, we're going to be seeing sunshine again. And I think we're going to see a new landscape where authenticity, true storytelling, and real business leaders who are working from the soul rather than working for profits all the time is going to be the new normal. That's my 60 seconds of take on it. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And that goes back to when you ask the question for business leaders and, how do they lead and how do you lead? Be authentic. Show some vulnerability. Show people you've had a challenge, but show them how you made it a possibility.
Yeah.
People need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Torstar, 20 years, you went on an amazing journey. You've just started a new one now with Powerful Steps. What's the exit strategy? What's the end game for this business?
Well, the end game, I can't even see an end game for it at the moment because I'm just loving being in it. But, the goal for Powerful Steps is to empower people around the world to know that anything's possible. You don't ever need to look at a challenge and have a freak out. That challenge is always going to be an opportunity or a possibility. And that's what I want to teach entrepreneurs and corporate leaders around the world, that you can be what you want to be. You can make those dreams reality. You just need to create the space to take the powerful steps forward.
Yeah, beautiful. If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing, do you think?
I'd be doing what I'm doing. I don't want to do anything else. I feel very grateful and blessed that I'm living in alignment with what I've always wanted to do. So if you'd asked me that last year, I would have said powerful steps. But now I'm in 100%. I'm in alignment, and yeah, I'm living my dream. And I've had a lot of heartache along the way, so it's taken a long time to get here. But I don't want to change anything, and I live with no regrets. Like, everything that's happened to me throughout my life has happened for a reason, to enable me to share my stories with others to propel them forward. So I'm grateful.
Yeah, beautiful. So you're somebody that does mentor other people though. So do you recommend that they have a plan B, or do you say to them just stick with what you're passionate about?
I think that what they need to do is tap into what their true power and purpose is, and once they understand what that is, it's really easy to move forward. But if they don't know what that is, then they need to do the work on themselves to find it. And that's what I'm really good at doing, is untapping that potential in people. Like, I have a mentoring client a couple of months ago out of New York, and she, in the first 10 minutes, so I want to do this with my business, I want to take it global. And the first 10 minutes she goes, I don't know how to tell you this, I hate what I'm doing. And I said, well, okay. And I said, well, what are you passionate about? And she gave me 3 things. And I said, well, those passions, how are they infused into your business? And she said, they're not. And I said, I'm going to work with you to infuse what you love into your business. And
Yeah.
a couple of months later, her business is skyrocketing. She goes, oh my gosh, Tori, I love this. She said, no one ever asked me what I was passionate about.
There you go.
And I said, well, it's that whole like attracts like. If you infuse what you love into what you do on a daily basis, it's not a chore, it's a pleasure.
Absolutely, no question about it. Do you have a mentor?
I always have mentors and I switch them up. So, obviously I'm Australian based. I've always had American mentors. I spent a lot of time in America. And I love every 18 months to 2 years switching that up because I think, with a mentor, there's a certain level that you get to that you reach out and you max out the potential that they're able to bring out in you. And then you get to the next level and the next level and the next level. And I do it once a week. It's my non-negotiable. And it's something that just sparks a lot of joy for me.
So, for people listening today who haven't had a mentor before, what would you say in terms of advice in selecting the right person to be a mentor for you? Because it's a very important part of the business process.
100%, like do your research, but also trust your gut instinct. So, if you feel that you've got that magnetic drawing towards someone, research who they are, research what they've done for other people, set up a call with them and see if you've got that great energy connection because you'll know within the first 15 minutes if you want to work with them. And you'll also know from doing your research if they can deliver what you want. And also for the person like me who's mentoring other people, I love that 15 minutes with them because I can work out if I can work with them or if I can't. Now, 90% of the people that come to me, I end up working with because I love them, but 10% of them I'll turn them away because I'm like, you're not aligned. That energy is not. You're trying to force it, and what you want to do is you want to use my connections for false pretenses.
Right.
So always go into it in perfect alignment with what you want to get out of it, and
Yeah.
make sure that is a two-way street. And you never ever want to work with a mentor who's just billing you, billing you, billing you, and you're feeling frustrated.
Yeah.
You want to work with a mentor that's a pleasure and the energy's right and the alignment's right and you're moving forward and you can see your growth.
Yeah. Great summary there. Now, last question of the day is going to be, where's Powerful Steps going to be in 2 to 3 years from now, and where are you going to be?
I'm going to be between here and the US, rocking it and empowering other people. That is my true destiny. I believe is really to show others that there is a roadmap to success, and if you're willing to put the work in, it's yours. It's all just there. Like, dreams will become reality. And I have a book out next year actually, showing people that journey. But for me, I just want to share my story with others to show them that anything is possible. Um, and that, yeah, just view challenges as possibilities. So in an ideal world, we'll be living between the two countries and, helping others to step into their true power and potential, Mark.
Absolutely brilliant. Tory, it's been fabulous having you on the Global Business Podcast. I nearly said my wrong show there, Global Business Podcast. But we've been traveling the world with this conversation anyway, so it doesn't matter. But listen, it's been amazing having you on the show today. Thank you for giving me your time, because time is the most precious commodity we have as human beings, and you've given me close to an hour today. I appreciate it, and thank you very much, and I'm sure that we will cross paths again in business somewhere. So Tory, thank you, and have a beautiful weekend ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Lots of love. Bye.